Welcome to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm your host and speaking coach, Deborah Deras, known as the top Latina peak performance speaker. This podcast is here to support you with strategies and best practices of paid speakers so you can find out what works and what doesn't, so you can achieve success with ease and grace in your speaking career. Enjoy the show. Are you always on the road speaking and your house is all alone collecting dust? Wouldn't it be nice to make some passive income while you're out speaking on the road? Well, I do. Want to know my secret? Airbnb. I use Airbnb to make some extra cash to reinvest in marketing for my speaking business. It's so simple. You just set up a listing and voila, you come home to money in your bank account on top of what you already made speaking. If you want to know more, go to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast.com to get all the information. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. We're going to talk about a very, very important topic, especially during Mental Health Awareness Month, because we have the amazing founder of Vita Therapy. But before we get started, I want to remind you that as a listener of this podcast, as a faithful listener, I have a special gift for you. I am giving away my 5 steps to be a paid speaker webinar, and you can grab it at deborahderas.com/speaknow. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Zeahlot Lopez, the CEO and founder of Vita Therapy, Inc. She is a duly licensed psychotherapist, licensed cosmetologist. Oh, that's why you always look so good.
Yes.
And entrepreneurial coach, helping humans rebuild their spirit. Guided by her intuition, clinical training, and life experiences, she helps people lead and have a happier life. Welcome, Z.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I'm so grateful because we connected at an event that I was speaking at last week, and I looked at this gorgeous woman and I'm like, I know you.
Yes.
We are, we have to connect, and we went on social media and we were already connected.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It is just the divine order that synchronistically puts you in the right place at the right time with the right people to allow you to use your divine talent, skills, and abilities to be abundantly paid to do what you love. And when I saw her booth, I was like, oh my gosh, she is an entrepreneur extraordinaire. Not only did she have her information, she had merchandise.
Yes.
She had necklaces, she had shirts, she had just like everything. And I went over to her website. I'm like, keynote speaker. We got to get her on the podcast. So I'm so grateful, such short notice, that you would take time out of your busy day seeing your clients. I want to talk about your speaking, but before we do, how did you get started as a therapist?
It's really interesting and pretty basic. I was a cosmetologist. I was doing women's hair. I was doing highlights. I was doing colors. And then I realized people weren't coming for the service. They were coming to talk to me. They were coming to tell me about, their babe problems, about their husbands, about their dogs, their children. And I was an unpaid therapist. And one day just a light bulb went off and I said, I need to get paid for this.
Amen.
And that's it.
Amen,
I went to grad school and voila, here we are, years later.
Wow. Yeah, because literally when I go to he doesn't let me call him hairdresser, stylist, okay?
Yes.
In Beverly Hills, Novoa Salon for all your haircutting needs, right? Mm-hmm. And he would, like, every single time I would get my hair cut, any problem I had, I would be able to work it out.
That's it. It's like you leave a new woman. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And was there any experiences in your own life, any traumatic experiences that had you get really interested in the world of therapy and psychology and mind-body connection?
Absolutely. I mean, beyond even my own experience, it's just family. Like everybody has a family and, no family is perfect. And Lord knows I got plenty to work on in mine. And it just made me realize how much of a need there was for a year-round TAN therapist that provided services in another language as well. 80% of all the patients I see as a psychotherapist are Spanish-speaking only.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so as an entrepreneur, we'll talk about your entrepreneur, going from being a therapist, they don't teach you how to market your business and to get clients. And getting clients as a therapist or getting clients as a speaker, very similar things.
Absolutely.
So how were you able to build up your practice coming out of school?
I have to tell you something. A lot of people are surprised because I'm not a good therapist. I'm a great therapist. I know I am. I believe in myself. And I know that I've always been a businesswoman. Since I was a little girl, I was slinging lollipops and I made my lunch money for a better lunch. I am a businesswoman that became a therapist and I happen to be great at it.
I love
right.
it.
So what really taught me is being a hairdresser, how to build up a clientele because I did not have a steady check. It was if you didn't keep your clientele, I had no money for school. I paid 10 years of college, 100% cash. I had no student loans. I am debt free.
That is so awesome.
That is what motivates
And
me.
I think that's like a tweetable moment, as Oprah would say,
Whoop,
that
snaps.
you are an entrepreneur that speaks rather than thinking of yourself as a speaker that's also an entrepreneur.
Correct.
Because if you don't have a business plan, if you don't have a marketing plan, if you don't have your brand, if you don't have all of that in alignment, look at the sign, align for success, right? People aren't going to understand what you do. And I always say that clarity is cash. People need to understand, what problem do you solve for me? In elementary school, I had a cat club for my cat Bootsy, and I was selling pins. And you could become a member of the Bootsy fan club and wear a pin. It was like $1 each,
Yes.
which was a lot of money at 8 years old.
Right.
And I was selling and getting people into my membership. And that cat was so rude. I was like, how can I have fans for you, cat? You're just no
I'm going
good.
to tell you something, though. They weren't fans of the cat. They were fans of you.
Right.
I am a firm believer, and this is quotable. This is mine. People do not buy a service, merchandise, or product. They buy you.
Exactly.
People do not buy therapy, do not buy blow dries or their fanciness. They buy me. That's it.
I love it. And you as a speaker really need to do a lot of the inner work because you're entering stages. I was just telling her my next gig is for 300 laboratory technicians. I'm imagining all of these guys with glasses and these nerdy guys. They're like, we really want you, Deborah. I'm like, you really want me? Are they going to be ready for me?
They ready for you? Are they ready?
Right.
Yeah.
And so going into and I've spoken at Caltech, I've spoken at JPL with all of these PhD rocket scientists. You have to have confidence to take a stage and own it from the moment you open your mouth all the way till the time you drop the microphone. And one of the things why I wanted to have you on the show is because I think people think that therapy is if you're sick or if you're crazy, but I really believe that therapy and doing inner personal development work is required if we want to grow and expand, and a necessary part of your discipline as a speaker. Can you talk about the importance of doing the inner work?
Absolutely. I think it goes back into everything, just full circle, the marketing, the advertisement, your business plan. If you don't know yourself, how will you know your merchandise or your product? You won't. People are buying you. And I think that in really knowing and accepting what areas you could still grow and develop versus what you're really good at, you can start to delegate what you're not good at and save time and effort and really just focus on what you do well.
That is why I delegated being here at Morris Media Podcast Studio, because I did not do well at video editing.
Right.
I did not do well at doing it on my own. And the book that changed my life with that was Strength Finders 2.0, where you discover your 5 biggest strengths and you delegate the rest. But how do you work with people? Like, what are the modalities that you use in your private practice?
Yeah, I'm really big on solution focused. I truly believe that my entire purpose as a psychotherapist is for you to no longer need me. That is my goal. I don't understand when people say, I need the doctor, I need to go, I'm sick. No, I don't see it. It's even the word patient versus client, right? A solution focus is, hey, this is what we're going to work on today. What do you think is the solution? All right, let's both explore those paths. Here's plan A and here's plan B. Let's go further into that. I let you be your own therapist. I train you. I'm uberly happy when someone says, Z, I'm feeling so much better. It was good working with you. That's my goal.
I love that. Yeah. I do the same thing when I'm coaching. It's like my job is that you don't need me, that you have your own inner coach in your head. But it's so important that speakers take time for self-care because there's nothing more draining. When you think of the career of speaking, you're like, wow, you get to be in limos, you get to travel to all these places, and you have that 45 minutes on the stage where you're the star. And then you have the crash.
Right.
It's kind of like the rock star where you're back at the hotel or running to the airport. You're 30 hours, maybe traveling. And it like all of that high of the adrenaline rush of the speaking and you drop down. And how do you deal with that? Because you can't live off that adrenaline, because eventually, like I wrote about in my book, it creates stress.
Absolutely. You know, the biggest lesson I learned is when I was researching Celine Dion. I'm a huge fan.
Ah.
And after she performs on stage, she takes weeks of just solitude. Not loneliness, solitude.
Amen.
And she is with herself. She goes away from her family, from her team, from everyone, and she just recoups. Because she says she expels so much beautiful energy that she needs to recoup that.
It's so true. Like after I'm speaking, and people are like, "Oh, you're so extroverted. You always want to be out." I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to look at anyone.
No phone.
I don't want to be around everyone. Thank God for Amazon Fresh delivering my food. I just go into it. And I used to think that being alone was lonely. And I love your distinction. And I meditated one day and I heard this voice that I believe is my higher self or Christ presence saying that I was at one with the one. That I wasn't alone. That's why I used to do my Periscope at 11:11 to remind us of the synchronicity and the oneness. When I'm at one with the one, then I get filled up. But we give so much as speakers that it's really important to have self-care practices to restore. What are some of the self-care practices you recommend to your clients?
Affirmations, I do them every morning. I give much, I require more. Every morning. I give much, I require more.
And so you spend time doing affirmations like in the mirror with yourself?
I show up before fear does.
Yes. Ooh la la. Another quotable. You're so
That's
quotable.
it.
I show up before fear does.
And not all days. I'm going to be just real with you. There's some days where this glam is not going on. Like there are tears, there are mocos coming out. Like I allow myself to feel. But then I get myself up, I put my heels on, I put on my lipstick, and I go. It's being in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say that when you take time to align for success, then all of the ego voice is on softer volume and you can hear the divine guidance of your intuition that's always leading you. So how did you get led into speaking? I know you're still a full practicing therapist, but you use the speaking as an adjunct to your therapy.
Absolutely. For me, the biggest goal is advocacy and also knowing that mental health does exist in communities of color where there's melanin and there's not much of it yet. What really got me into speaking is when I started doing interviews and people were like, wow, you should really elaborate on that and you should explore that further to present it. And I said, why not? And I started to, and now to the point where now I am charging what I am worth.
Fantastic. And I personally can refer you a lot of speaking engagements, especially because you're bilingual Spanish speaking, because there's been so many speaking engagements that I personally have turned down that you would be perfect for, my friend. So I'd be happy to refer you. So when you decided to acknowledge what you were worth, how did you know how much to charge?
My time and my education and my experience. I think that when we go to any type of expert, any at all, we're not buying that hour. We're buying every single thing that comes with them, including their humor, including their customer service, including how well they did the job, and their network. My biggest thing is what network is that person bringing with them? I know how deep my network goes. Because if something goes well, I'm going to definitely recommend you to someone else.
And I was just talking about that with the last podcast I did about influencer marketing and how speakers need to position themselves as influencers and really build their social media following.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that helps bring people into the event.
Yes. Anywhere I go, I always tell everybody, like, this person designed me, this person dressed me today, French Connection, I have this on, I have that on.
And it's so important about acknowledging your worth and your value because as speakers, we're not paid by the hour. I have this exercise that I do in my mastermind where we have the 7 E's of how to assess your worth. And part of it is your education. Part of it is your expertise. Part of it is your experience that you give the people. And it's really getting clear on the distinction of what is the value you bring? What is the problem that you solve that uniquely you do? That there's no one else that's going to be able to speak and give them the experience that you have. So how do you, once you do a speaking engagement, follow up and get supplemental speaking engagements, or do you have a sales process to grow your speaking?
Absolutely. I love just referral base. But more importantly, what I love to do is questionnaires and follow-ups to the audience as well as who contracted me. As well, I have questionnaires even before I begin. Who is your audience? What is the problem trying to be solved? What are you trying to accomplish within what time? So I prepare well in advance. So everything that I'm charging for that 1 hour is really not an hour. You know that. It's hours and weeks of work and preparation. So in answering that question, I follow up. I do a warm phone call and I say, hey, just wanted to check in. Was everything all right? Were there any questions in regards to your audience?
I love that. And it's so important because often I know when I'm speaking, then I'm on to the next event and you're just in that cycle of being on the road. But the fortune is in the follow-up. Ooh, I just had a tweetable one myself. Yes. The fortune is in the follow-up. So the best, and I learned this from my coach, having a CRM for a client relationship management system for every place that you speak. So on a regular basis, you're following up. Oh, by the way, I have a new topic. Maybe you'll say on cyberbullying, or I have a new topic on this food for depression, and you're giving them a reason because if you don't, speaking is like you're one and done. And then you have to constantly be cultivating new leads. So when you go back, like I don't know why, but Minnesota loves me a lot. I spoke at Minnesota State University, Mankato, and I was back there like 4 or 5 times because I kept connecting and reconnecting. And even though I was the same speaker, the messaging was different. I did a different talk. So finding an audience that also resonates with your message. Who is your target audience and how did you discover that niche for yourself?
Absolutely. Women of color who are in entrepreneurship. That is my niche, and Spanish speakers. Now, I'll say this to what you just said earlier. The best customer is the customer you already have. So what I do is before I speak, I ask them, if this all goes well and they love it, not like it, they love it, let me know what other topics are necessary for this year. And if you book for 3 of them.
Are necessary. I love that keyword.
Let's explore what we could do price-wise. So then it's a better deal for them, but I'm getting 3 speaking events already booked out.
Wait a minute. Okay, say that again.
So I say that even beforehand. I ask them, what challenges are you currently having? Wait a minute. Your staff difficulty and then management difficulty are 2 different presentations. If you're looking for 3 or 2, let's talk price-wise. Let's negotiate. I love negotiation like I love a good salad. I do. I love it. Yeah?
You love negotiation like you love a good...
Yes. Yeah.
It's so true because people will come to me and they'll like, I want you to increase our productivity and efficiency.
Sure.
And I'll do a workshop and I'm like, well, that's a whole separate thing on, customer service, or that's a whole separate thing on stress management. That's a whole separate thing.
Right.
And I could give an overview, but if you want to take a deep dive, we could do some consulting. I could do some webinars. That's the other thing with speaking. It's not just the sage on the stage. You can get back-end sales for consulting. And with you, I would see you doing like EAP work where you could be.
That's a great point. The employment
assistance
program, I have to share with you, that is amazing for the trainings, not so much for the support system on the mental health end. Hence why I'm a cash-only provider. I don't mess with insurance companies.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So you're cash only?
I'm cash only.
You're so smart.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And I have thriving practice with it.
That's so fantastic.
I told myself when I started my business, I'd rather eat rice and beans than go to insurance companies and have them delegate and tell me how to run my business.
Exactly, because then you're at their mercy.
I'm at their mercy, and they have not given a pay raise in 20 years.
Oh, my goodness. And you're saying the majority of your clients, both in your speaking and in your practice, are primarily Spanish speaking?
In my practice.
Oh, in your practice.
Yeah.
And in your speaking, it's
both.
Yeah.
It's both, yeah.
That's so fantastic. So where can we find you on social media so people can stay in touch with you?
So I'm really big on social media, and meaning big, I love to interact. So I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Vida Therapy. Across the board, it's the same handle.
And you go to her booth and she's got a little scanning thing. Before we end, one more question I had wanted to ask you. It was about the merchandise.
Yes.
So one of the things that is so important as speaker is back of the room sales. I have a book and I was thinking of getting my shirt that your ego is not your amigo, it's your enemigo. And you have necklaces and this and that. Talk about your merchandise, how you developed it, and why speakers need to have merchandise.
Well, really it came from the advocacy I wanted for the mental health. And I saw nothing but like t-shirts and hats, which are beautiful, but there was nothing really that catered to beautiful women. And I was like, I want jewelry that I can wear that advocates for mental health, but also looks cute. So that's
Right.
what I just created. So I have necklaces, I have earrings.
Tell
I have
them what they
rings.
say. It's so cute.
Yeah, so I have my ring on right now, and it's terapia, which is therapy in Spanish, and it advocates for the Spanish speaker that goes to therapy.
Qué chévere.
Sí, qué chévere. And I have my therapy bracelet, and on the inside, it's the reason we go to therapy, because I love me, and it's a whole collection. So there's a collection for this year and for the next and for the next. The reasons of why we go to therapy. Because my family matters. Because my children matter. Because I want to have better health.
Yeah, and her branding is so beautiful. That's what helps you being a cosmetologist.
Yeah.
You have that visual.
The aesthetics.
Exactly, the aesthetics. I love that.
Yeah.
And it being a speaker, like she said, like Z said, it's being an entrepreneur first.
That's right.
And you said, I'm quoting all of your quotes, they don't buy the service, they buy you.
That's right.
So they've seen you on YouTube, they've seen you on your Instagram or LinkedIn, and they're like, we like her. Why do the laboratory people want me? They probably want to energize this crowd.
Right. They want to laugh.
All the speakers are on, like, all the topics were on very scientific biology stuff, and mine was the one inspirational. So you be you and focus on your expertise, and you will be an amazing, or already are, speaker such as Z. I'm so grateful that you're here. Check out Vita Therapy. She's available for hire for all of your speaking needs. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you all for listening. This has been another great episode of the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. If you loved it, why don't you write a review? 5 stars, my friends. Tell them why they should be listening in and share it on your social media. You all know that sharing is caring, and I have something to share with you. The 5 steps to be a paid speaker webinar. You can grab it, you can download it, you can watch it right now at deborahderas.com/speaknow. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. If you want to get a free webinar on 5 steps to be able to be a paid speaker, go to deborahderas.com/podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you are the messenger for the message. And with the power of synergy, anything